Welcome to today's 5 Good Minutes on the 10 Commandments. Today we'll be considering the 6th commandment with Jonathan Thiede.
Welcome to 5 Good Minutes, where this week we are continuing our conversation about the 6th commandment on the prohibition against murder. When I was in high school, we had to read this book called A Separate Peace by John Knowles. And this is a common coming-of-age story between two young boys in high school. These boys' names were Finney and Gene, and these boys were inseparable. They were best friends from the very beginning. Gene was more reserved and quiet, while Finney was extremely outgoing. And the story really comes to a climax when Finney and Gene are at the top of this tree, and they're going to jump into a lake together. When Gene, for whatever reason, jostles a branch and causes Finney to fall and break his legs, Finney's life is forever changed because of this action. And the story comes to a climax because it shows that the fruit of our actions often reveal what is beneath the surface. Gene did not know at the time, but what was beneath the surface was a deep-seated jealousy for Finney. Our scripture for today is Genesis 4, 1 through 16, and we're going to see similarly two brothers, one envious of the other. The verses read, "Now Abel kept flocks and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborn of his flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel in his offering, but on Cain and his offering he did not look with favor. So Cain was angry, and his face was downcast. Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it.' Now Cain said to Abel, his brother, 'Let's go out to the field.' While they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Where is your brother Abel?' 'I don't know,' he replied. 'Am I my brother's keeper?' The Lord said, 'What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crops for you.'" We see here in this passage a few things about the nature of murder. The first is that murder is anger in action. It was because Cain was angry with his brother. He was envious of his brother, and this turned into this angry rage. And so he devised this plan in his heart. It was anger that led him to kill his brother. And similarly, it is anger today in which all murder takes place. Second thing we see is that murder is often at the expense of the innocent. Isn't this the reason that God must hate it so much? We see someone like Abel who resembles all innocent murder victims. Murder is often at the expense of the lives of the innocent. Thirdly, we see that murder is taking the role of judge and executioner. We'll see this later in the New Testament, but we see anytime someone is murdered, we see them taking the role of God. They are not leaving room for the judgment of God, but taking it into their own hands. And lastly, we see that murder leads to vengeance. When Cain goes out from the land, people attempt to kill him because people cared about Abel. And in the same way today, we see a cycle of hatred anytime someone is murdered. What is the takeaway for this? How can we apply this really gross, dark scripture? Well, again, the simple application is just simply don't murder. But I think there's a deeper signal that we should check our hearts for any sign of vengeful thoughts. That when we have anger in our hearts and we have envy in our hearts, only bad things will result. And so the application is that we must check our hearts and give our anger and our envy to the true judge so that we can live with peace and rest toward our brothers and sisters. Cain's error was that he did not take his anger and his envy to the Lord. He let it seethe inside himself, and he let it brew to the point where it boiled over. Let's not be that way. Let's take our anger and go to our brothers and sisters, and let's take our envy and go to the Lord with it, recognizing that he is the one who will judge justly.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to check out all our content and podcasts on Orchard Hill Plus. You can find that and so much more on our website or the Orchard Hill app.
Bye.